Can you tell the story of CryptoPunks in one sentence?
The discovery of provable ownership of a digital asset that catalyzed an entire generation and conversation around community ownership and individuality that I just did not even know could exist.
I'm Hannah Wexler. I'm an art director on the CryptoPunks team alongside my co-art director, Carson Keeling. Welcome, Erick. We are so excited to talk to you today and tell us how you first heard about CryptoPunks.
So yeah, I'm Erick. I'm also known as Snowfro in the metaverse. And I am a longtime collector. In fact, I claimed CryptoPunks in June of 2017. And I'm someone that's been participating in the generative medium for a really long time. And also, I had been exploring the Ethereum ecosystem for a while. And up until that point, there weren't that many things to do with ETH. So I would take my ETH and I would use it to participate in every single dApp that existed at the time. And so just anything, just to kind of see what it felt like. So I remember, I was at my office and I read this post on Reddit because I was participating on ETH Dev and, a couple of different subreddits on Reddit about the CryptoPunks project. And so when I discovered the CryptoPunks project, I was like, oh, okay, like they're assigning ownership to something digital. And for the first time, because as someone that has been participating in the digital arts for a really long time, never really had that ability to assign ownership to something digital. And it was a generative project. I got really excited from an artistic perspective. I got really excited from like a nerdy technology perspective. And it's just one more dApp to be able to operate in this ecosystem. From there, first time owning something digital and getting really excited about it, jumped into Discord for the first time. At the time being in the kind of crypto world, it was all Slack. So they kind of lured me into the CryptoPunks Discord. And I mean, it's crazy, but from that point to maybe the end of 2020 when I launched Artblocks, I was in there every single day.
From owning your own tile company to Web3, how did you make that leap?
So I started this tile business in 2004 and I had a team of 15 people and all people I love dearly and really enjoyed working with. And, I often thought over the course of those years being in the Discord every day, it's like, man, like this is something I am just so excited and so passionate about, but there was no way I was going to leave that history behind me. It was almost 20 years of being in business, of building relationships, and I learned a lot from that experience. It was like a non-starter. Like, yeah, I love this. This is an awesome hobby, and I will spend all of my time in this hobby that I can, besides, having 2 young children and trying to also just have a normal life. But I always had this desire. I always had this like dream of like, oh my gosh, what if I could do Web3 full time? That'd be so great. But like, it was just not an option. And then, launched Artblocks in 2020 and it was a hobby. I mean, it was literally just like, in fact, not just a hobby, but it was this thing that I had kind of been pitching the idea to people. And I think they all were like, oh yeah, that's a crazy little nerdy thing. Like, have fun with that. I had no expectations of Artblocks kind of having the traction that it did. And so even launching Artblocks, like it never crossed my mind that I would ever transition from, a more physical world into the more digital world. Until Artblocks started exploding. And to me, at that point, I have a responsibility to these 15 people, of course, which I still get to participate in the tile business. I still have like a weekly meeting for an hour every week. But now I have like thousands of people that I'm also feel responsible to, whether they're artists or collectors, in expressing my gratitude for their curiosity and delight in this thing that I've built. And as that started escalating, I got into this 100 and whatever hour a week work mode, not sleeping, just in that Discord all of the time. And it soon became clear that like it was just unmanageable to do both. On the one hand, it was COVID, and so the tile business was slow, and I had extra time to kind of do stuff. But right around that time, things started kind of opening up back up again, and so the tile business started kind of moving forward again, and I started having client meetings again, and at the same time weighing that against like managing Artblocks and the Discord and the artists and the collectors and all the things that were happening there. So yeah, then there just got to this point where it was impossible, and I became essentially full-time Web3 with still kind of like some support for the tile business on a regular basis. And it's been a pretty wild ride since.
Along that like process of you like transitioning from Web3 as a hobby to a career, like what role did CryptoPunks play in that?
I mean, I'd say it played the biggest role. I mean, I still on my Twitter profile, I credit Larva Labs with lighting this fuse. It's like I was very excited about the technology. I was writing smart contracts for all sorts of like stupid, but like I was having so much fun with it. I was messing around with like crypto in general. Maybe a little bit more on the speculative side, more than I look back and it was just I made terrible decisions, but I was very involved and it was fun. Like I had a really fun time doing all of that, but it all felt very financially driven, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's just not who I am necessarily. Like I'm not, always kind of driven by that flip or that thing. And it wasn't until I discovered CryptoPunks that it gave it grounding in art. And at that point, I had been making art for a few years, for about 9 years. And the kind of the worlds collided all of a sudden, and it was just a very clear like this changed the narrative entirely of why I was excited about the technology beyond just being like a tech person. I was excited about the technology because I thought that it could change the world. It could change things for creators. So yeah, Punks 100%. Like, I don't know that I would be here today if it was not for the CryptoPunks project.
What advice do you have to people that are crypto curious or digital art curious and want to get into this space, but don't even know where to start?
That was the hundreds of people that entered the CryptoPunks Discord between 2017 and 2020. Same thing, people would come in and be like, y'all are stupid for paying for these stupid cartoons. Like, I mean, it was like a regular thing where somebody would just come in. It's like, dude, if you feel that way, like mind your own business. Like, what are you doing coming in here and doing that? But that's fine. But we would take our time and like kind of talk them through it. I think that over the course of that time, I learned how to have a conversation about this with people that were not, that were curious, but they just didn't understand. And taking your time, like entering the space and learning who the people are. And I think maybe the most important thing is just, if it sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true, in terms of being careful with scams and protecting yourself, being very good with security, but also just like learning, like spend time. I remember in 2021, people just like dove right in. And there was just this opportunity for people to just kind of feel things out and kind of like navigate who are the artists, who are the thought leaders, who are the scammers that come across as thought leaders, who are the people that are excited about the technology, genuinely like curious and passionate about the technology, because there are many of us here that are that way, and we continue to be so. And I think obviously a bear market's never fun, but one of the most great things about the bear market is the people. It's a testament to the people that are still here and the people that stick around. And we've gone through these cycles, and it just doesn't change our opinion. Those are the people, I guess, entering the space that you can learn from and that you can get confidence from, and let them shape your entry instead of just kind of trying to figure it out on your own entirely.
Of all your many CryptoPunks, what is your favorite trait?
So I have a strong affinity for the super rare traits because of how hard I had to grind to get my hands on them. So choker, orange side, pink hair, white hair. And just, I remember the day that I landed the orange side and the choker, and one of them was with a trade with Larva Labs, which was pretty special. And I just, to this day, like anytime I see those, they kind of really stand out. But I do love VR a lot. I love VR probably because like one of our community members has created his own VR ape, Justin, and I don't know, like I just have so much respect for that guy, and he just is always in my Twitter feed with his VR punk. I don't know, and crazy hair because I have a history of having crazy hair. But yeah, I could go on. All of them, all of the above.
Where do you see this space, and where do you see CryptoPunks in 10 years?
Wow, 10 years. That is an eternity. I was saying 5 years, feeling like it was an eternity a few years ago. When I was in the CryptoPunks Discord, I delusionally, it was like, these things will be in museums one day, and people would laugh at me pretty hard. Now they are. And they're in multiple, and it's like, but I didn't think they'd be in museums this soon. So maybe when I was in the CryptoPunks Discord, and y'all have done some digging, so you might even have found like some of those statements, but maybe in that time I might have said like in in 5-10 years, not 3 years. And now when we think about what happens in 10 years is, I do believe that as they gain visibility without the hype, the way that they had the hype in the past, again, it's more disarming. It's just a more like gradual and organic way of entering. I think that slowly they're landing in people's hands that are less interested in the quick flip. So in 10 years, I don't know. I mean, I guess the most exciting part would be that they would be more evenly distributed, more like broadly distributed. Same goal for me for art blocks for the Chromie Squiggle. There's 3,000 holders. There's 10,000 squiggles. It would be really cool to have, a broader distribution base. But obviously some people got really excited about the project early on, including myself, and minted multiple hundred. And so it's really hard to kind of like distribute them amongst a lot of people. And the same thing with punks. People like me are hoarding a significant amount and making it harder to get that distribution. But I think you will continue to see more distribution of them. And I think that you're going to see them change a narrative from like this kind of weird speculative thing to just like a moment in history and like an artistic artifact of history. And I think it just happened so much faster than I expected it to. So then I think, okay, well, what's better than being in a museum? Like, I don't know, like maybe just more museums, but that's it. Like, I think, the crazy part of the last 3 years is how quickly we've hit these, like what I would have considered delusional, like ideas or hopes or goals. They've just kind of come and they've come very quickly.